fellow bookworms to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and we are doing another Throwback Thursday, and I am so excited for this one. This was another one that I read frequently as a child. It was kind of after Hecate Peg, and it was my next kind of go-to library checkout, and I would check it out frequently, and I read it well past the age that it's aimed for, and that is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle, and I actually got the trilogy. It's a quintet though, so there's two other books, and I just got the trilogy. The two other ones didn't really interest me, and actually, this one I never read A Swiftly Tilting Planet, which is the third one. I did read A Wind in the Door. And another one by her that I really enjoyed was A Ring of Endless Light, which follows a different family. But yeah, really loved this one growing up. We're going to get into my thoughts on it in just a second. But before I do, just want to remind everybody our book of the month for October is The Ring by Danielle Steel. If you aren't already reading that with us, I really hope you will. It is never too late to get a copy. This book is definitely so much more, and I think it's a great one for discussion because it does cover the time when Hitler's rising to power, and then as the war goes on, and then even after the war. We're just to the point where the war's ending, um, and we're kind of gonna be going forward from there. So it is never too late. You can go back and reference videos at any point in time, but I do strongly encourage you to pick it up because it is definitely so much more than what you just think it would be by the author and the genre and then even the synopsis on the back. Like, it is a lot more than that. So strongly encourage you to pick that up. We also do our weekly reads every Wednesday. Right now we're doing different spooky type thriller books, so hopefully you're joining us for those. And then we also do our series Saturday, and we are currently working our way through the Dresden Files. So hopefully you are following along as I do all these different reads. And if you're not already subscribed, please do so. Hit the bell notification and then give this video a like while you're at it. But there should be, I think, Tuesday of this week, I was gonna put up my bookshelf tour. So hopefully it's already up. If not, it should be coming out this next week. And then tomorrow, we're actually gonna be introducing the book of the month for November. So really excited about that one. So definitely check that out. And like I said, if you don't want to miss out on anything, definitely make sure you hit the bell and subscribe. So my puppy just brought me a bowl. Apparently she thinks it's breakfast time. But anyway, yeah, hopefully you're following along. I don't know if I've introduced Boo Boo. She's my one little lonely black dog here. Um, and she's just chilling behind me, so you might see her head pop up. Or she might knock stuff off like she likes to do. So, anyway, let's go ahead and talk about A Wrinkle in Time. So, this one, like I said, was another one I was very obsessed with, and I would frequently check it out from the library. I absolutely enjoyed it. And I tried to read some of her other ones. The only other one I remember really enjoying was A Ring of Endless Light. Um, I really, really enjoyed that one, and I checked that one out a couple times, but I would always go back to A Wrinkle in Time. And like I said, I did try to read some of her other ones. This one, like I said, is the 50th anniversary edition, and it's a trilogy. So it has the first three books in the quintet, but it has like a little timeline in the front, like, or well, not a timeline, not like a family tree, and it shows which books which characters are in. And I noticed Charles Wallace is only in the first three, so I don't know what happens to him after that. Hopefully they address it in the next one, in the fourth book. But it looks like the fourth books are more centered on Sandy and Denny's, which are the two twins. Um, and so yeah, I don't know why he's not in the other ones. Maybe he's doing something else, but I don't remember reading those ones, and I have no recollection of what happens to him. But just in case you're not familiar with I'll go ahead and start with the Wrinkle in Time and then move through. But Wrinkle in Time basically follows Meg and Charles Wallace, and Charles Wallace is 5 at the time. Meg, I want to say, is anywhere between 12 to 14. It says she's in high school, so I would assume 14. Um, but I'm not quite sure. It never actually says. And so it follows her and their father's missing. He is a physicist and he went to do some work and never came back. So um it's kind of that whole situation. And then there is the three misses who are Mrs. What's It, Mrs. Who, and Mrs. Which. And they end up coming and they let their mom know that there is such a thing as a Tesseract. And basically, a Tesseract, is taking time and then and space, more space, but it does manipulate time. I'm not big brained enough for all that. So anyway, but basically instead of like a straight line, it folds and so you can get from one point to another quickly. Um and so the children end up going on this grand adventure, and for them, several, I don't know, days, weeks, months pass, but it's a large amount of time. But by the time they get back, it's like 5 minutes after they initially left. And so they go on this adventure with the missus, and they end up coming to a planet that's like shrouded in darkness. And even their own planet has like a film, but it hasn't, which their own planet is Earth, but it hasn't fully given into the darkness. There's still light on it. Where this planet where their father is at is completely shrouded in darkness. Like they've completely given in. Um, and there's a thing called It, which runs the planet, and everybody on that planet is the exact same. Like it's like Stepford Wivey, and they all like the children are playing to a certain rhythm. Like the moms come out at the same time to tell the children to come into dinner, and so they're going through, and then there's this red eye guy. Um, and they end up finding their father essentially. But I also watched the movie adaptation of this, and I have to say they really lost the essence of the book. Like the changes they made, just some of them, again, I understand, like when movies, like they'll make certain changes to add to the drama or cut out certain things, but I think the changes they made just really lost the essence of the book. Especially they didn't include Sandy and Denny's, which I think were very important characters to understand just how different Meg and Charles Wallace are. They didn't include them. They changed the whole scene with the red eye man, which I think it would have been way more impactful if they kept the original scene from the book, but they completely changed it. It had some like random beach scene. And then they completely changed as well, which I did not enjoy. Again, it added to the drama, so I can understand why they changed it, but I did not enjoy it. I don't understand why they changed the scene with the red eye man to some random beach scene. Somebody, I guess, just taking creative liberty there, but it was not better than the original. And so yeah, definitely if you've seen the movie, read the book because the movie does not do the book justice whatsoever. And normally I'm not too hard on movies. I understand they need to make certain changes, but in this case, like it does not do the book any justice whatsoever. But yeah, it's just really good story. And what I like rereading it now as somebody who does have my diagnosis of autism, which I didn't have when I was reading this as a child, like rereading it with that diagnosis, I understand why I connected to these characters so much. And again, I think Denny's and Sandy's play an important part because they're in a family of highly intelligent individuals who are a little bit different, but not necessarily autistic. And these guys, like, you can't say for certainty that they're autistic, Charles Wallace or Meg, but I'll leave a paper linked down below that I found that talks about that, and it's talking about representation of autism in literature, especially for children like in the school setting. And it talks about mainly Charles Wallace, but she does talk about Meg a little bit as well. So that paper will be linked down below in case you're interested. I strongly encourage you to check that out. But there's also, I found several different, just like people's thoughts on whether they're autistic or not. And so I personally think that there's a lot of similarities there, and I can see why I especially connected with Meg, but you don't get you don't really get that without Denny's and Sandy's and their parents there, because those are highly intelligent individuals, but they're able to move through, the social structure of society, even though they are highly intelligent. And I think the movie especially lost that with Meg, because to in the movie it's just like, well, she's just going through a hard time. She's at that awkward age and she's not one of the popular girls, so she kind of gets bullied. But then at the same time, like, she lost her father, so she's all angry and surly, and that plays a part why nobody wants to be around her. Where it doesn't really show that she truly doesn't fit in. Like, Charles Wallace, they captured a lot better than they did Meg, and I definitely connect with Meg a lot more because I think she's a good representation of what women on the spectrum go through, women and girls. We often don't get diagnosed till later in life because we do kind of pass um as more neurotypical, and so it's just, I think she represented it a lot better, where Charles Wallace was more stereotypical of a young boy. Like, he, you know was nonverbal, highly intelligent, and then, within his family he could speak. And then later on in, like, the second book, he's in school and he's just going on about his current obsession, which is very stereotypical. Like, we have a topic or something that we're very obsessed with, and our special interests and such, and he's going on and on about it in school. And so I think he represents more, the stereotype than Meg does. But Meg, I think, is a very good representation of what women and girls go through on the spectrum. And yeah, I think it's just a beautiful book regardless of that. And I think that's why, um, you know, everybody can enjoy this book. It's not just aimed at neurodiverse people, for sure. And so it's definitely one, like I said, having that viewpoint now, I can see why I connected to these characters and why I went back to them over and over and over again. And so that's The Wrinkle in Time. And like I said, that's my absolute favorite. And even rereading it and reading the others, like, that's still my favorite. Like, that one's not going to change. I'm going to continue to revisit that one. Then in the second one, like I said, it's a year later. Their father's back. Their father's not really in that book, though. Like, he's off on a mission with the president or something. And so Charles Wallace is going to school, but Charles Wallace is really, really sick, and they don't really know what's happening. Um, and it has something to do with mitochondria and fer- farandole. And so he's sick, and it's kind of fun. And so you have a God, how do you pronounce it? Cherub. Um, and but it's not like what we depict, as a baby with like wings and such. Like, that's not it. It's like this dragon-like creature, and it's really fun. And so, Meg and the cherub have to go through this adventure. Like, they're partnered up, and there's this teacher, and then Calvin's back again. Which I didn't mention Calvin, but he's like their friend, and he's like somebody that Meg feels completely can be completely herself with. Like, there's no hesitation there, which I really like, because that's kind of how I feel with my husband. So, like, I can just be myself. Like, I don't have to try so hard. And so, Calvin's there again, and there's some other fun. Mr. Jenkins, which is the principal, ends up coming along for this one, which is unique. But they're basically trying to save Charles Wallace. So they actually go inside Charles Wallace. And I was reading this, I decided to stay up late and read that one. And so I was out in the living room and I kind of fell asleep, and I was like dreaming like I was in the the mitochondria, and I was like, it was a weird dream. But anyway, so yeah, so they're trying to figure out what's going on. And again, it's the darkness is trying to take over, and killing off the farandole, which is, the mitochondria are dependent on. Um, and so again, just very beautifully written. It's not wasn't quite as enjoyable as A Wrinkle in Time. It was a little bit weirder, but I still really enjoyed it. And then we go into A Swiftly Tilting Planet, which in this one, they're older. Meg is now married to Calvin. She's pregnant with their first child, and Charles Wallace is 15. Sandy and Denny's are going to law school and medical school. Um, so they're going to become a lawyer and a doctor, but it's mainly revolving around Charles Wallace, but it includes Meg too. Even though she's pregnant and she can't go along on the adventure, they kind of have that mind sync, and so she's along for it as well. And what I really liked about this one is it took them through like different time, like it was almost like a genealogy, but it went way back in history. And they were at the same where they just kept going to different winds, and again the darkness is back. And so they're fighting against that, and this one's a unicorn's working with Charles Wallace, so he's trying to figure out what's going on, and then they're trying to change what might have been. And so they're trying to change that for something that's going on in the present time, so that way that doesn't happen. And so yeah, it goes through and you're following this genealogy. It got a little confusing because of the names, like she kept using the same names. um but again, oftentimes that happens, like you're tied to, but it was confusing because it was like right back and back, so it's like, which one are you talking about? Like, which win is this? But I really enjoyed that one. Like, I liked the different stories that it kind of had within the one story that all tied together, and like the different history and like the changes, because they're still in the same where, they're just in different winds, so you see the changes to the landscape and everything. Like, there used to be a lake, and they go back to that time when there's lake, and then there's not. And there's also these things called projections, which is what the darkness wants to happen, and so sometimes they get thrown into a projection, which is really dark and just kind of creepy. But yeah, I mean, that one was really enjoyable. But like I said, A Wrinkle in Time is definitely the one I'm gonna go back to. And one thing I think I didn't enjoy in the second book too is because they never mentioned the first book. Like, when Charles Wallace talks about the dragon, Meg is like, no, like that's, it's not real. But yet they had this whole big fantasy thing in the first book, and it never references the first book at all. Like, not once. And it doesn't references the misses at all, or what they go through, and just the fact that she's so disbelieving when she went through all that in the first book doesn't really make sense. It doesn't ever reference that their father was ever missing. So it kind of lost that aspect to it for sure. And I think even with the third one as well, it's not quite there either. So I think that's part of why I didn't quite as enjoy them as much, because to me, if it's a series, like, yeah, it's the same characters, but it never references what happened in the first book. Where like the second two do go together because they reference the darkness, um, which has a name now. I was pronouncing it Ecthroy. I don't know how to actually pronounce it, but that's how I was pronouncing it in my mind. So, but yeah, just really beautiful book. Absolutely love it, and it's one even as an adult. Again, I'm gonna be rereading when I just want something, kind of more just fun. And what's funny is I mentioned I'm not a big sci-fi fan, which I really enjoyed the one we read, Freedom's Ransom. I really enjoyed that one, which surprised me. But this actually is more probably sci-fi than it is fantasy, I would say. And I loved it as a kid, so I definitely need to be more open to sci-fi for sure. Um, again, I think it's just all the different names. Like, I'm trying to get used to them, but yeah, absolutely a wonderful book. So if you've only seen the movie, I strongly encourage you to read the book because the movie did not do it justice whatsoever. But I think I'm gonna leave you guys here. I really, really enjoyed it. There is one quote I want to read you, which I marked. So before I go, let me go ahead and read that. And so, it's Mrs. Whatsits talking with Mrs. Murray, And basically Mrs. Whatsit beamed at, Charles Wallace, like she's just really fond of him. And she says, "It's lucky he has someone to understand him." And Miss Murray says, "But I'm afraid he doesn't. None of us is quite up to Charles." And this is the line I liked. And so it's Mrs. Whatsit, and she says, "But at least you aren't trying to squash him down." And that line really struck a chord because I know a lot of women, I'm part of some groups and such, and they really, people either don't believe they're autistic, or a lot of, they had to mask a lot because they were always getting squashed down, essentially. Where I was just always accepted, so I didn't quite have the burden that other women did, because my mom and my sisters, they would tease me a lot, but they always accepted me. Like they never tried to squash me down or change me or anything like that. And so that one really struck a chord with me because I think that makes all the difference in the world for sure. So I just wanted to share that line with you. I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys here. I hope you will pick up this book and give it a chance if you haven't. If you read it as a child, I strongly encourage you to reread it as an adult because it's definitely worth it. But anyway, happy reading, everyone. Bye.